You're watching TVC Breakfast. Now, as part of efforts to amend the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the National Assembly has transmitted 44 bills to state houses of assembly for further legislative work and approval. The National Assembly had considered 68 constitution review bills, but only 44 were passed. The 44 bills deal with issues which include the abrogation of the state joint local government accounts, financial independence of state legislatures and judiciary in compliance with legislative autonomy, timelines for civil and criminal cases, mandatory State of the Nation address by the President and governors, security of local government executives, tenure for 3 years, mandatory local government elections, among others. Some lawmakers are now calling for a bill on a state police to be added to the list, given the worsening security situation in the country. With me in the studio is a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Fred Nziako. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good to be with you. Good morning.
Thank you so much. Now, joining me via Zoom is a political commentator, Teve Akase. Thank you so much for being there. All right, let me start with you, Fred Nziako. What do you make of this constitutional amendment? We've got 68 earlier, and then 44 are now being transmitted to the state's houses of assembly.
Let me very quickly, by way of enlightenment, quickly touch at the basis because some people will be wondering why, what's the link between the state assemblies and national assembly? Yeah. Well, let's quickly tell our viewers who may not know that for any item on the constitution to be amended, such item must have not only the passage by National Assembly, they're both Senate and House of Reps, but it must also have the endorsement, so to speak, say the passage by at least two-thirds of the states in Nigeria. We have currently 36 states, so that means for any item, 24 must agree. And once they agree, that is the concurrence that is required. And then before they are now sent to Mr. President for his accent. Right now, about 44 has been sent to the state assemblies, for their concurrence. I mean, by way of legislative input. Yeah. But my worry, before I get worried, the joy is that it touches on so many aspects that we have been yearning that they be touched, especially the issues with local government autonomy and local government elections and autonomy for judiciary and autonomy for the legislature as well. And so many other things that have to take away some items from the exclusive list to at least residual or concurrent list of the Constitution, whereby at least the states will be able to get involved. Issues like rail transportation, even aviation, especially rail transportation, aviation, and some issues that have to do with health, education, and the rest of them, and
judiciary as well.
And judiciary as well. But my worry is the crux of the matter was not touched. Two things that were not touched worry every reasonable analyst. One is the issue of state police. Right. What it has to do with the security of lives and property of the people. I mean, it has become very obvious that there's no need flogging a dead horse. I mean, it has become a dead issue when you begin to talk about our centralization of our policing system. That does not help in any way, manner, or form. And we expected and agitated and even encouraged the National Assembly to look deeply into that and encourage that the state police be entrenched in our system. What we have today is quasi-state policing structure. It's already there. Some of these, even though not called state police, but they go by different names: vigilante, neighborhood watch, and the rest of them, neighborhood security, and whatever you call it, and even the Amoteku, the Bebago, all of them. These are all semblances of state police. So why are we running away from that basic nomenclature that will give it not only local and international appeal, but will give it that strength to be able to operate? And the earlier we begin to address such issues, the better for us. The second aspect of it, which is worrisome, is that the issue of resource control and resource allocation, which has been a sore point in our federal policy system. And by the time you have unbundled some of these things and you ask the state to get involved, what of the corresponding funding that they will require to be able to get involved. If, for example, you want the state to generate and distribute electricity, which we all want and yearn for, we also, and then the issue of even prison reforms, whereby the states can now build their prisons and all the, what of the funding? Will federal government abdicate such responsibilities or jointly hold such responsibilities, whereas at the same time they are still holding 51% of all collected revenue of the federation account? So that aspect of it, which is to whom much is given, much is expected. If you give me work, you give me money which is to work. Will federal government still hold on 51% of all collected federal revenue, whereas the states are now burdened with much more responsibility?
Right.
That's the aspect that we also need to look at.
We'll look at that aspect in total. But let's bring in our political commentator, Tebe Akase, who is joining us via Zoom. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Tell us about your optimism. Are you optimistic about the 44 bills that are transmitted for concurrence, to the states as Houses of Assembly?
Well, yes, we must commend the National Assembly for attempting something. It's always very important to attempt. Democracy is all about making efforts. Many countries of the world, especially the big ones, kept trying, making mistakes and correcting those mistakes, and they are where they are today. So Nigeria too is on the trajectory of the efforts, And if the constitution, as it is at the moment, is largely seen as not representing the yearnings, the views of Nigerians, or majority of Nigerians, and our representatives at the National Assembly, our senators and House of Representatives have made an effort. We must first commend such effort. We may not be there yet, but I looked at the bills that were sent to the state assemblies, and yes, I have one or two issues. Your guest in the studio just mentioned the issue of state police. And it's one of the, if we are looking at restructuring that people have been clamoring for, then you leave out a very, very important issue of state police. What nature, what kind of restructuring are you talking about? Because people argue that governors will hijack state police and use it against their perceived opponents. But that argument is not very strong because governors have the judiciary at the state level. And I am a witness to many cases in Benue State where I served as chief press secretary to the governor of Benue State, the incumbent governor, and the state government lost cases in the state judiciary. So that argument that governors will use police to witch hunt opponents is yet to convince me. And so state police is one issue that is very, very important, because if you allow the people to run their security, it is happening already. Some states have run their outfits. We have the Amotekun in the west, and in the east too we have some security outfits. So what are we talking about?
Right.
Is it an uncoordinated security machinery that we want to see? So I think the issue of state police, but I commend the National Assembly for including the local government autonomy and the judiciary and legislative arms autonomy in the bills that have been sent to the state assembly.
All right, let me bring you back to the studio. Let's look at the imperative of state police. Is it what is of topmost priority now? Is it state police or recruitment of people, recruitment of people into the military, because of the situation we are faced with currently?
Yeah, we can do both at the same time. There's nothing wrong with concurrent actions. I mean, you're looking at the state police, which is policing itself, because policing job is different from the job of the military. We must always know this. It's because of the failure of policing that every now and then you call in the military even to handle issues of internal worries that naturally should be handled by the state police. Because one, it's obvious that the number of policemen, the per capita number of policemen in Nigeria, about 400 and less than 450,000 men, and women policing almost 200 million people. Meanwhile, a lot of them are attached to corporate citizens, a lot of them are attached to highbrow individuals and the rest. So you now find out that the number of people that really do real policing work in Nigeria is so little. So there's nothing wrong with increasing such recruitment, and there's nothing wrong with, while we are talking about state policing, we also increase the recruitment in the military, because the soldiers themselves have said that they are lacking in adequate manpower because of the terrible situations we find ourselves. Before now, we can say that we had enough, and that was why we were able to send our soldiers on peace missions all over the world, and they go there and perform excellently well. But now that we are having some serious issues in our hands, there's need for recruitment of more men in the military. That does not mean that you hold one down and implement the other. Both can be done by pursuit.
Well, so this still on the issue of state police, which is not really reflected in this 44 bills that have been transmitted to the State's House of Assembly. If you look at the current situation, the prevailing security situations in the country, and the fact that the lawmakers are from different constituencies, especially some from the north, the security situation is, it's ravaging the country nationwide. Are you saying, or would you look at it from the angle of the fact that the lawmakers know what we are facing as a country, but they're not putting their money where their mouth is?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Mr. Tevye Akase, did you hear the question?
Not from the beginning, please. Will you?
Right. Looking at the prevailing situation in the country, still on the issue of state police, you know that the lawmakers are from different constituencies, and they also understand the fact that we are faced with security challenges. And then they are also clamoring. For instance, Honorable Adodogua said that people should be allowed to carry guns, and he made that statement out of frustration based on the fact that a lot of Nigerians are faced with these security challenges. But is it for them not to include this among the 44 bills that were transmitted to the state's houses of assembly? They're not putting their money where their mouth is. Well,
that is why it is very important that the state assemblies have a say in the amendment of the Constitution, because states are the second tier. They are closer to majority of Nigerians, and the representatives of the people in the various state assemblies are closer to the people than their counterparts in the National Assembly. So this is the time for them to collectively and variously make this proposal to the National Assembly to take a second look at this very, very important aspect of the amendment. Because we can, the issue of security is too important to be ignored. No development can take place in an atmosphere of chaos. This is something that has been said over and over. So if the National Assembly has failed to recognize the importance of state police, the state assemblies should, they have a forum. The speakers of the state assemblies have a forum. They should speak within themselves quickly and suggest that a second look should be taken on this very important matter. Because as far as I'm concerned, we may make laws in Abuja, as many laws as we can, but the ordinary Nigerian on the streets is suffering the consequences, the very harsh consequences of insecurity.
Mr. Tevye Akase, because we're actually constrained, with time, I wanted to quickly look at this, by way of, wrapping up your thoughts. It however may interest you that a lot of people are not even optimistic about the constitution amendment, because they feel that the fundamental of the constitution itself is flawed. being handed down to us by the military. So they want a holistic overhaul of the constitution, that we should jettison this and, have a roundtable talk and, have a constitution that reflects our ethnic diversity. Is that what you also think?
I also think so. But if we can't have that right now, then let's take the opportunity. Let's utilize the opportunity that we have in the amendment. We have been calling for an overhaul of the Constitution. Of course, many people, including myself, have called for outright, we should discard the Constitution as it is at the moment. But if that is turning out to be to be impossible,
yeah,
we have a window now in the amendment. So let the right thing be done.
Right. I think your point is made. Your point is made because of our time. Let me bring it to the studio. Fred, where do you stand on this? Should we have a new constitution? Will panel beating work? So
I agree with Teve that the ideal thing is to have a brand new constitution that will be a product of a well-convened sovereign national conference of all ethnic nationalities, where all the crux of the matter, all the major issues will be discussed. But in the absence of that, because of lack of concurrence in ideas and opinions and lack of agreements across board, in the absence of that, what do we do with what we have? I mean, we've been operating the 1999 Constitution since 1999 till date. And then if we are going to take it forward, then let us at least make the best use of what we have in our hands. If we cannot get the very best, let us get something that is close to being good, for the good administration of the country. But let me very quickly add that it is not just in transmitting to the state assemblies. The hands of the governors, the manipulative hands of the governors, I want to encourage the state assemblies to ensure that such manipulations don't come from these governors, because this is the third time the issue of local government autonomy is being sent to the state assemblies for their concurrence, and they will always send back the things without their concurrence. So let us hope and believe that this time around they should be bold enough to tell the governors straight to their faces that they should not meddle into this one, so that they will be able to free and unbundle the local governments for the interests of the people.
Well, thank you very kindly, gentlemen. Lawyer and public affairs analyst Fred Nziako, thank you so much.
Many thanks.
And also joining us via Zoom, political commentator Teve Akase. Thank you so much too for your time.
My pleasure.